This episode of the Demonic Compendium contains spoilers for the following games. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the 100th episode of the Demonic Compendium, the show where I discuss the mythology, design, and game history of your favorite Megami Tensei demons. No, you didn't accidentally click on an old video. I am celebrating this occasion by revisiting the very first demon we ever talked about on the show. I've got a lot of new stuff to say and a lot of corrections to make. So join me with a trip down memory lane because today we're talking about Mokoi. Again. If you like what I do, please consider commenting, subscribing, maybe even checking out the Patreon. It's really appreciated. Alright, let's get started. Mokoi, which roughly translates as evil spirit, is a supposed creature from Aboriginal folklore in Australia. If you try looking into the origins of these spirits, you'll find a lot of little details, ranging from them being tricksters and murderous spirits who kill people who use dark magic, to them being guardian spirits of ancestral beings. Some tales state that Mokoi have no tongue, so they can't speak, and others state that these beings arrange for the death of a person who has become old or sick, since the Aboriginal people didn't believe in dying of old age. From birth to death, the Mokoi are peculiar human spirits whose roles range across several facets of culture and folklore, because as the supposed spirits of people, they can take on as many roles as individual people themselves. Mokoi's compendium entry from Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance refers to them as a monster from Australian indigenous folktales. It lives in a jungle alongside owls. Though it appears human, it has an abnormally large head. It also lacks a tongue and therefore cannot speak. Myth tells that these creatures are reincarnations of the Soul of the Shadow, and they are even said to engage in intercourse with human women from time to time, as well as eat children and fight humans. So yeah, Mokoi keeps a pretty full dance card. It's a wonder he ever had time to visit Istanbul. Now, something astute viewers may notice is that many of Mokoi's compendium entries from older titles, including the one I read back in 2015, say that Mokoi is from Mernjan myth, while newer titles like Soul Hackers 2 and D2 simply say Aboriginal tales, with Persona 5 Tactica even specifically saying Yolngu lore. This is because Mernjan, while not like a slur or anything, at least I really hope it's not because I've said it multiple times in this video now, is a pretty outdated phrase that was mostly used by anthropologists who study the region rather than a term used by the people who actually live there, with Yolngu being the preferred term. And I think it's kind of neat that Atlas West has updated Mokoi's entries to reflect the more accurate modern terminology. Except in Persona 3 Reload, I'm not really sure why they kind of backpedaled there, but whatever. Design-wise, in my original video, I talked about Mokoi's wood-like texture and attributed his possible shape and posture to the Australian grass tree, which I do still think is a neat possible reference, but one that ultimately may have just been a coincidence. Instead, Mokoi's design in Megami Tensei actually has a few layers to it, like an onion. For starters, let's get this out of the way, several Kaneko demons that we know and love in the franchise pay very close homage to the work of manga artist Shigeru Mizuki, whom I've actually talked about on this channel before. He's perhaps best known for the manga series Gegege no Kitaro and his popularization of many Japanese yokai and other mythical creatures from around the globe. In the early 90s, Mizuki released an encyclopedia of creatures which included depictions of Mokoi hanging out with some owls. It's very likely that Kaneko based the Mokoi design that we know and love off of this Mizuki depiction, and this specific piece may also be why so many compendium entries for the demon make reference to their connection to owls. But the question now becomes, where did Mizuki get his depiction of the Mokoi from? That actually comes from a display of Aboriginal art at Osaka's National Museum of Ethnology that came out in 1992. The simple truth is that there are many wooden carvings of Mokoi as these dolls, and it's very easy to see how both Mizuki and Kaneko drew inspirations from this. And as for the boomerang, hey, at least I was right about this back then. He's Australian. By the way, I don't say this often enough, but I really do owe a lot of the information I get for these design sections to the work of folks like Erika and Digino Tensei. Their ongoing efforts have helped clear up misconceptions, confirmed things for me, and really taught me a lot about the demon designs to try and give you all the most accurate information I can on top of being, hopefully, entertaining. Oh yeah, and Mokoi also has a Persona 5X design, and it's basically the same, but it's kind of weirder, right? I think the wooden texture isn't as prominent, and something about the face bothers me a little more. but it does still remind me of the Stinky Cheese Man. I am not letting that go. And speaking of kids' versions of things, his Demi-Kids design is basically identical. It's really not even worth commenting on. They knew you don't mess with perfection. As far as game history goes, I'm actually going to be dividing this section up into 3 different categories. First, let's quickly recap the stuff that I already talked about nearly a decade ago. Starting with the fact that Mokoi is one of the mainstay demons of Raidou Kuzunoha, and he summons a super powerful boss version of Mokoi in the 3DS version of Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Raidou's Mokoi also appears in the manga, Raidou Kuzunoha vs. the Lone Maribito, and as a trusted demon partner in the no longer Japanese exclusive version of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, where Raidou replaces Dante, and the summoner uses this demon for the unique skill Mokoi Boomerang. In Persona 4, players can unlock a Mokoi doll by completing the Girl on the Rooftop series of quests for this dork in their classroom. After getting the doll, players can put it on the shelf in Yu's bedroom and it just kinda moves around on its own. Look at him go. I assume the item is in reference to the actual wooden dolls that sparked Mokoi's appearance in the franchise to begin with. And while I did correct myself on this one a long time ago in the episode I did on Blob, Mokoi is also one of the personas summoned by Margaret during her boss fight in Persona 3 Portable, and she mostly uses him to try and inflict status ailments onto your party members. While Mokoi was absent from the original Persona 3 and FES, they appeared as a member of the Devil Arcana in Portable, and would return in Persona 3 Reload and the Episode Aegis DLC that came out just last month. Alright, so this next section is basically just stuff I didn't talk about in the old video, but should've, because it was there. In Devil Summoner, Raidou Kuzunoha vs. the Soulless Army, Mokoi is the demon minion summoned by Orochi during his boss fight. While Mokoi isn't all that strong on his own, especially at this point in the game, they do have abilities that can knock you or your demons down, making them rather frustrating. There's also an NPC named Professor Mokoi, and I'm gonna be honest, he really doesn't do all that much, but I just love that he exists, and you can ask him about himself. In Devil Summoner 2, Raidou Kuzunoha vs. King Abaddon, Mokoi is one of the handful of demons that will automatically join Raidou's party if players bring over save data from Soulless Army. He also has a minor story role as the one who assigns the case file, "It Came from the Sewer." Mokoi tasks Raidou with helping his friend, the Large Tarask, and you have to complete this case eventually in order to gain water traversal. Mokoi has special conversations with all 4 of the writers, and oh my god, these are just fantastic. Mokoi is super chill around them and even kind of annoys them, asking them questions about how much killing they've been doing, and even just excusing himself so he can go build plastic models. The conversations are mostly the same no matter which rider you bring into battle, but Mokoi does have a unique line of dialogue for each of the 4 horsemen related to their established color, commenting that the white rider probably wears tighty whities, that the red rider is flaming red, that the black rider's heart is black because they charted on the barbecue, and that the pale rider should get a tan because he's so pale. They're all pretty fun and cute, but I bet these fiends really wish that thing about Mokoi not being able to speak was actually true. Alright, now from here on out, and I find this fascinating, everything else I'm going to talk about today just didn't exist when I did that first video all those years ago. That's always been kind of the double-edged sword of doing a show like this, because basically every episode eventually becomes outdated in some way. So for now, I'm happy to discuss Mokoi's game history over the past 9 years. Mokoi appears in Persona 5 under the shadow name Nightwalking Warrior as a member of the Death Arcana, and a swarm of Mokoi also appear as a scripted battle in the Shibuya Jail in Persona 5 Strikers. There's a mini-boss Mokoi, also called the Nightwalking Warrior, that appears when the Phantom Thieves attempt to reach the Ferris wheel. Mokoi has a few minor roles in Shin Megami Tensei 5, first appearing in the starting region of Dot and hanging out with his buddies, Ketchi and Koropoker. A Mokoi also appears in Chiyoda, where he gives the Nahobina the side quest, One Mokoi's Trash, where he asks the protagonist to hunt down an electric guitar, a model, and a TV with built-in game console. Which sounds like this Mokoi is setting up a pretty sweet bachelor pad. While that quest isn't available in the Canon of Vengeance path in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, since the Nahobino doesn't visit Chiyoda in that story, he does bring his own role to this expanded title, and is one of the demon partners of Ichiro Dazai when he joins you as a guest character, summoning Mokoi to cast Trafuri to escape from most battles. And quite recently, both Atlas West and Atlas Japan held a poll to vote for new Navigator demons in the title. While Mokoi was one of the eligible contestants, he didn't make the top 3 in either region, so we won't be seeing him take on a new role in the title. In the mobile game Shin Megami Tensei Liberation D2, Mokoi has a small but fairly unique role in the event You Dead. One day, while Gakuto and Himika are out shopping, a woman offers Gakuto a sample of an energy drink called You Dead, which gives him an energy boost that Tarukaja's got nothing on. Unfortunately, the drink causes severe crashes and side effects after 3 days, so the D2s gather up all the drinks to stop people from drinking them. It turns out that the woman giving out the You Dead was actually Mokoi in disguise, who genuinely wanted to help all the depressed people he's been seeing put a little more pep in their step. Also that he made the energy drink himself by shaving off bits of his own body and cooking it into the beverage. I'd try it, would you? In Soul Hackers 2, Mokoi has a very small role in the request Academics Wanted. Kyuta has a few questions to test Ringo's demon knowledge and ask the current name of the country where Mokoi originated, which is of course Australia. And speaking of Devil Summoner, I can't really ignore the elephant in the room. On September 12, 2024, supposed achievements for something related to Raidou showed up on SteamDB, hinting at some sort of potential re-release. I'm actually recording this script on the 28th, one day after the Sega Atlas Tokyo Game Show, where I thought we might get some sort of confirmation there, but we didn't. So I'll just say that any future Raidou news, whether it's an HD remaster, or a full-blown remake, or even one day a Raidou 3, fingers crossed, will most assuredly have a role in store for our little wooden friend. But beyond that, I sincerely hope I was able to get as much information as possible into this video, because I really loved talking about Mokoi again. He is one of my favorite demons in the entire franchise, and I know he's pretty popular with other fans as well. When I first launched the Demonic Compendium, I originally planned it to be a series of little smaller videos that I could kind of throw together between bigger projects, but I never expected it to be one of the main draws of my channel for people. I've received so many amazing comments from all of you out there who tell me how much you love the series and look forward to each new episode. I'm really glad I've been able to keep these videos going so regularly, and I want to thank all of you for helping me get as far as I have. There are still tons of demons to talk about moving forward, so for now, I'll just say, there you have it, Mokoi, the arboreous aboriginal Australian avatar of the afterlife. Did I leave out something you thought was important? Was I just plain wrong about something? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to let me know who you'd like to see me talk about in future episodes. That's going to do it for this episode of the Demonic Compendium, and I will see you next time. But be careful while you rest that a demon doesn't take over your body.